Dear friends, today's story is a very painful one. The story of Umar and Laila. So let's start the video. Please like our video and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It was the year 1825 and the city of Baghdad was shining brightly along the riverbank. In the city's markets, colorful fabrics fluttered everywhere, where everything from silk clothes to the aroma of saffron and cinnamon was sold. In these same markets was the shop of a merchant named Haji Umar, whose shop was called Umar's Caravan. Umar was about 30 years old, of medium height, wheat-colored face, and eyes that held a sparkle, telling tales of travel. His beard was light, and he always wore a deep green robe that made him stand out in the crowd of the marketplace. Umar wasn't limited to Baghdad. He traveled for trade to Syria, Egypt, and India. His caravan included 10 horses, 5 camels, and 12 workers who carried his goods from one country to another. He traded in silk, spices, and rare stones, and because of his cleverness and honesty, his name was known far and wide. But there was one thing missing in Umar's life. He was alone. His parents had passed away years ago, and he had no siblings. He used to think about marriage, but he would say, "Until my heart accepts someone as its own, I won't bind myself in a relationship." His life passed in travel, trade, and the hustle and bustle of the market. One day Umar received a message from a trader in Damascus. He was told that new designs of silk had arrived in Syria, which could become very popular among the rich in Baghdad. Umar immediately prepared his caravan. He saddled his horse, Badshah, who was his loyal companion. Badshah was an Arabian horse, black in color, and fast enough to tear through the desert sands. His right hand in the caravan was Rahim, an old man who had been with Umar's family since his father's time. Rahim said to Umar, "Son, this journey is long. It's storm season in the desert. Be careful." Umar smiled and said, "Uncle Rahim, a trader doesn't fear storms." The caravan set out early in the morning, passing by the riverside on the way towards Syria. On the third day of the journey, as the sun was setting, the caravan reached the edge of a desert where, among the sand dunes, a small grove of palm trees appeared. The shade of the palm trees and a well made the place look like a piece of paradise. Umar stopped the caravan and said, "We'll spend the night here." The workers set up tents, and Umar walked toward the well to fetch water. There he saw a girl sitting near the well. She had a clay pitcher in her hand which looked broken. The girl's dress was simple, a white shawl flowing from her head to her shoulders. Her eyes were blue like a piece of the sky had come down to earth, and her hair was long and black like silk. There was a strange sadness on her face, but her beauty was such that Umar paused for a moment. "Oh, girl, what are you doing here alone?" Umar stepped forward and asked. His voice was gentle, as he didn't want to scare her. The girl looked up at him. A sparkle appeared in her eyes, and she said, "I came to fetch water, but my pitcher broke." Her voice was like a whisper dissolving into the air. Umar took out his water pouch, filled it, and handed it to the girl. "Here, and if you need to go anywhere, you can come with our caravan. This desert is dangerous." The girl drank the water and smiled. "What is your name?" she asked. "I am Haji Umar, a merchant from Baghdad. And who are you?" Umar replied. "I am Laila," said the girl, and there was a secret hidden in her smile. Night came and the caravan rested in the tents. Umar sat near Laila and started talking to her. He told her that he travels for trade and loves to explore the world. "I have seen silk in the markets of Syria, sat in the shadows of the pyramids in Egypt, and smelled the scent of rare flowers in the jungles of India. But my home is Baghdad. That's where my heart belongs." Laila listened silently and then said, "You have a big heart, Umar. You helped me even though you didn't know me." Umar laughed and said, "Kindness is a man's greatest wealth." That night, Laila decided to stay with the caravan. The next day, as the caravan moved forward, a storm came. Walls of sand rose to the sky, and the horses became restless. Umar stopped the caravan and told everyone to take shelter in the tents. But Laila stepped out, raised her hands, and something strange happened. The storm calmed. The wind stopped. Umar saw all this, and suspicion rose in his heart. He kept looking at Laila but said nothing. He thought, this is no ordinary girl. At night, when everyone was asleep, Umar went to Laila and asked, "Who are you, Laila? How did you stop the storm?" Laila took a deep breath and said, "I want to tell you the truth, Umar. I am not human, I am a fairy. My world is beyond the desert, where we are made of light and air. I came here because of your kindness, because your heart pulled me toward you." Umar was stunned. He had heard stories about fairies but never believed them. "You're a fairy? Then why are you here?" he asked. Laila said, "We fairies can come to the human world, but only when someone calls us from their heart. You helped me and I was charmed by your kindness." A strange warmth filled Umar's heart. He said, "Laila, if you wish, you can come with me to Baghdad." Laila smiled and said, "I will come, but there is one condition. Do not ask me to show you my true form, or I will have to return to my world." Umar promised and said, "I will never hurt you." Reaching Baghdad, Umar gave Laila a place in his home. His house was by the river, a small mansion-like place where he lived alone. Laila made the house beautiful. She draped flowers on the walls and filled the air with a strange fragrance. People in the market were surprised where Umar found such a beautiful girl. A few days later, Umar said to Laila, "Laila, I want to marry you. You've changed my life." Laila lowered her head and said, "I love you too, Umar, but remember, do not look at my true form." Umar agreed and they were married. After the marriage, Umar's days were filled with happiness. Laila accompanied him on his travels, and when he went for trade, Laila secretly used her powers to protect him. Once, when the caravan was going to Egypt, bandits attacked. Umar started fighting, but Laila commanded the wind, and the bandits fled. Umar saw it, but said nothing. His love for Laila kept growing, but one day curiosity rose in his mind. What would Laila's true form look like? Would she be just as beautiful as she is now? He thought. One night, when Laila was asleep, Umar tried to remove her veil. His hands were trembling, but he couldn't stop himself. As soon as the veil was lifted, Laila's eyes opened. Sadness spread over her face. "Umar, you broke my promise. Now I must leave." Before Umar could say anything, Laila disappeared into the air. Only a glowing feather was left behind, which fell to the ground. Umar burst into tears. He had lost his love. He picked up the feather and said from his heart, "Laila, I will bring you back, even if I have to go to the world of the fairies." After Laila disappeared, silence fell over Umar's house. His mansion by the riverside, which once sparkled with Laila's presence, now felt deserted. The vines of flowers on the walls had withered, and that strange fragrance in the air had vanished. In Umar's hand, there was only that glowing feather which Laila had left behind. He stared at it all night, and a determination awakened in his heart. "I have lost Laila, but I will bring her back, even if I have to go to her world, even if it costs me my life." He locked his house, gave his caravan workers leave, and said to Uncle Rahim, "I am going on a journey. If I do not return, give my shop and home in your name." Rahim asked in surprise, "Son, what is this? Where are you going?" Umar replied, "To a place where humans rarely go." Umar prepared his horse Badshah, took some rations, water, and a sword. He had Layla's feather, which was still glowing slightly. He thought that maybe it would guide him. He left Baghdad and headed towards the desert, the same place where he had first met Layla. When night came, he reached near the palm grove. The well was still there, but there was no sign of Layla. Umar held the feather up in the air and said, "Layla, if you are hearing me, guide me." Suddenly, the feather started to glow and rose into the air. It moved ahead and pointed towards a sand dune. Umar spurred his horse and reached the place. Beneath the sand, there was a stone door on which strange symbols were engraved, marks of stars and waves of wind. The door opened and a tunnel appeared that led underground. Umar took a deep breath and entered the tunnel. Inside it was dark, but the light from the feather showed the way. He kept walking, and after a while the tunnel ended. In front of him was a strange world, a place where the sky wasn't blue but golden. The ground wasn't sand but shining stone, and tiny particles of light floated in the air. Trees could be seen in the distance, but their leaves were transparent like glass. Umar was amazed. This is the world of the fairies, he thought. The feather was still in his hand, and it signaled him to move forward. After walking a little further, Umar came upon a stream. Its water wasn't ordinary. It shimmered and kept changing colors. At the edge of the stream, a small boat was parked. Umar sat in it, and the boat started moving on its own. He wondered if this was all a dream or reality. The stream took him towards a city where buildings were floating in the air. It was the city of the fairies. The inhabitants looked similar to humans, but from their wings and glowing eyes, it was clear they were fairies. Umar got off the boat and entered the city. In the center of the city was a grand palace made of crystal. Umar thought that maybe Layla was there. He moved towards the palace, but two fairy guards were standing at the door. In their hands were spears made of light. "Oh, human, what is your business here?" one of the guards asked. Umar said, "I have come to find Layla. She is my wife, and I want to take her back." The guard looked at him carefully and said, "It is forbidden for humans to come here. But if you know Layla, you may meet our queen." Umar was taken inside the palace. The throne of the palace was on a high platform, where the queen of the fairies was seated. Her name was Zaha. She was tall, beautiful, and her eyes sparkled like gold. On her head was a crown adorned with waves made of light. "Oh, human, who are you, and why have you come here?" Zara asked. Umar bowed his head and said, "I am Haji Umar, a merchant from Baghdad. My wife Layla is a fairy, and I broke a promise I made to her. She returned to her world, and I have come to ask for forgiveness and take her back." Zara listened carefully and said, "Layla belongs to our tribe. She went to the human world because of your kindness, but you broke her trust. Now she is here, but you cannot take her back unless you pass 3 trials." Umar asked, "What are those 3 trials?" Zara replied, "The first trial is of courage, the second of wisdom, and the third of heart. If you pass all 3, Layla may go with you. But if you fail, you will lose your life." Umar thought for a moment. In his heart was the memory of Layla, and he said, "I am ready." Zara smiled and said, "Then the first trial will begin tomorrow morning. Rest here tonight." Umar was taken to a room made of crystal. Inside was a bed suspended in the air. He lay down, but sleep didn't come. In his mind was Layla's face, and he wondered if he would see her again. Morning came, and the guards took him to a field. Zara was standing there. She said, "The first trial is of courage. You must cross a river of fire." Umar saw that ahead was a river in which instead of water, fire was flowing. Across it was a bridge, but it was made of ropes and swaying in the air. Umar took a deep breath and moved toward the bridge. The heat of the fire scorched his face, and the ropes shook with every step. Once his foot slipped and he barely survived falling, but he held Layla's feather tightly and kept moving forward. Finally, he reached the other side. Zara said, "You have passed the trial of courage. The second trial will be tomorrow." Umar was exhausted, but hope had awakened in his heart. He thought that maybe he could bring Layla back. After crossing the river of fire, Umar's body was fatigued, but in his heart was a strange peace. He had passed the first trial and was now one step closer to Laila. The golden sky of the fairy world shone above his head, and the glittering stone ground beneath his feet left a strange coldness. Zara, the fairy queen, called him back to the palace and said, "You have shown courage, human. Now comes the second trial, the trial of wisdom. Prepare yourself, for this test will challenge your mind more than your heart." Umar bowed his head and said, "I am ready, my queen." Zara smiled and said, "Rest tonight. In the morning you will be taken to the place of the trial." Umar was given the same crystal room where he had stayed the first night. He lay on the suspended bed, and Laila's feather was in his hand. He thought, "Laila, I will do everything to reach you. Just forgive me." His eyes closed and he entered the world of dreams. In the dream he saw Laila. She was standing near the palm grove where they had first met. Laila said, "Umar, keep your heart and mind together. In the world of the fairies, not everything is as it seems." Umar tried to ask her something, but the dream broke. Morning came, and the guards took him outside the palace. The guards led Umar to a forest where the leaves of the trees were transparent like glass, and strange whispers echoed in the air. In the center of the forest was a large stone, on which 3 doors were carved. Each door had a symbol: on the first a sun, on the second a moon, and on the third a star. Zara arrived and said, "This is the trial of wisdom, Umar. One of these 3 doors will lead you forward, where Laila is. The other 2 lead to death. You may ask 3 questions, and I will speak the truth, but you must choose the door yourself." Umar took a deep breath and began to think. He had 3 questions and had to use them wisely. He looked at Layla's feather, which was still glowing softly. He remembered Laila's dream. Not everything is as it seems. He asked the first question, "Queen, will the sun door lead me to Laila?" Zara said, "No, that door leads to a pit of fire." Umar nodded. Now 2 doors remained, the moon and the star. He asked the second question, "Is the moon door the path to death?" Zara replied, "Yes, it leads to a cave of poisonous air." Only the star door remained, but Umar wasn't sure. He thought that tricks could exist in the world of fairies. He asked the third question, "Will the star door bring me closer to Laila?" Zara smiled and said, "Yes, it will take you forward." Before moving toward the door, Umar paused for a moment. He felt that Zara's answer was too simple. He looked at Layla's feather, which was now glowing brightly. He realized that perhaps there was a trick in the answers, but he had no questions left. He placed his hand over his heart and moved toward the star door. The door opened, and in front of him was a tunnel. He entered, and the door closed behind him. At the end of the tunnel was a great hall where particles of light danced in the air. In the center of the hall stood a mirror, and in front of it stood Laila. Tears of joy welled up in Umar's eyes. "Laila," he called and ran toward her. But Laila raised her hand to stop him. "Umar, stop. This is not my true form, only my reflection. You haven't yet completed the trial of wisdom." Umar was surprised. "What do you mean?" he asked. Layla's reflection said, "In this mirror are hidden the answers of the 3 doors. Zara told you the truth, but not the whole truth. You must understand the secret of the mirror." Umar looked toward the mirror. In it, his own face was visible, but in the background were also the 3 doors. Umar thought, Zara said the star door would take me to Laila, but maybe that's not the full story. He looked closely at the mirror. Behind the sun door was fire, behind the moon was poisonous fog, and behind the star was a golden light. But within the light was a dark shadow. Umar understood. The star door brought him to Laila, but there was a danger here. He asked Layla's reflection, "What is this dark shadow?" Laila said, "This is the final test of your wisdom. To exit the mirror, you must recognize your greatest weakness." Umar fell into deep thought about himself. He was a successful merchant, kind-hearted, but what was his greatest weakness? He remembered that the reason he lost Laila was his curiosity. He looked at the mirror and said, "My greatest weakness is my curiosity. I wished to see Laila's true form, and I lost her." The mirror glowed, and Laila's reflection disappeared. Suddenly, a wall in the hall opened, and Umar stepped out. He was back in the forest, and Zara stood before him. "You have passed the trial of wisdom, Umar," Zara said. "You not only chose the door, but understood the secret of your heart. Now remains the 3rd trial, the trial of the heart." Umar asked, "Where is Laila?" Zara said, "She awaits you at the end of the 3rd trial. Tomorrow will be your final test." Umar nodded and thought, "I will not turn back now." Umar had passed all 3 trials: courage, wisdom, and heart. Fairy Queen Zara told him that Laila now stood before him. He was standing in a golden field where particles of light danced in the air. In front stood Laila, her blue eyes shining, but sadness on her face. Umar ran toward her. "Laila, I have come. I did everything for you." But Laila raised her hand to stop him. "Umar, stop. You have come this far, but we cannot be one." Umar froze. "What do you mean?" he asked in a trembling voice. Laila, with tear-filled eyes, said, "I am a fairy and you are human. Our worlds are different. You passed the trials, but the price of my return is your life. If I go with you, your time will end." Umar was stunned. Zara bowed her head. "Yes, human, this was the final secret we kept." Umar's heart broke. He looked at Laila, whose tears sparkled in the air. "So I lost everything." His voice grew heavy. Laila came close and held his hand. "No, Umar, you gave me love which I will never forget, but I cannot watch you die." Tears flowed from Umar's eyes. "Laila, how will I live without you? You are my life." Laila touched his forehead and said, "I will live in your heart. Go, live in your world." Suddenly, light flashed, and Umar found himself in the desert of Baghdad. Laila was gone, and in his hand was only that feather, now lost its glow. He fell to his knees and cried out, "Laila!" His voice was lost in the sand. He was left alone, a merchant who had lost everything. His home by the river now felt like a graveyard, and in his heart was a sea of pain that would never stop. So friends, breaking a promise is a terrible thing, and its price can be very great.